Our guest is Shemane Nugent. She's a gun owners advocate, and welcome.
Well, most importantly, I'm a mom. I think that's why I'm here. That's the main reason that I'm here. I think that in the United States of America, we have the freedom and the responsibility to protect ourselves and our families, and that's why I'm here. I think that's why I'm speaking out about the Second Amendment.
You're with a group called Second Amendment Sisters. What's that?
Yes. The Second Amendment Sisters is having a rally tomorrow called SAFER, Second Amendment Freedom for Everyone rally tomorrow on Freedom Plaza. And it's just an opportunity for like-minded women to get together, and a lot of us are moms. A lot of us own guns for collectible reasons. A lot of us shoot skeet, a lot of us trap shoot, a lot of us hunt, and some of us just want the opportunity, whether or not we actually own a gun, we just want that opportunity, that freedom, to have the responsibility and protect ourselves with that Second Amendment freedom.
Do you think that freedom's being infringed upon?
It could be.
How so?
Well, if John Kerry gets into office, John Kerry would like to make sure that only military and law enforcement have guns, which means that if I'm on my way to my son, and I'm speaking to you from a totally perspective viewpoint as a mom, so my whole life revolves around my son. If I'm going to my son's soccer game or basketball game or track meet and I stop to get gas and I'm confronted by a convicted felon who happens to be going through the criminal unjust system, the revolving door policy where they're put back out on the street. I encounter one of these guys and he wants to rape, rob, or murder me. John Kerry wants to make sure that I don't have the means to protect myself against the much stronger male counterpart.
A Million Mom March is taking place this weekend. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's great. In the United States of America, we have the freedom to speak out for what we believe in. And I don't think there's going to be a million moms, but that remains to be seen.
But what generally, what do they stand for as far as gun control issues are concerned?
They're against private gun ownership, which is what John Kerry is, against private gun ownership, and he also wants to ban shooting ranges. So although he says that he is a hunter, he also aligns himself with people and organizations who are radically anti-gun.
Does this current president and his thoughts on gun ownership is something that you align yourself with?
Absolutely.
Especially later on the gun assault, the assault weapons ban.
I don't think that's going to pass.
Tell us a little bit about what it is and what is the concern come September 13th.
Well, I think that there are a lot of policies that come to fruition just to make it to the next step, and I think that's what's going to happen with the assault weapons ban. I don't think that's going to actually pass, and I think the assault weapons ban is really a misnomer. Yesterday I did an interview, I was speaking at the Heritage Foundation, and a guy from the Seattle Times came up to me and said, "Do you own a gun?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "What color is it?" What does that have to do with anything? And I think that's what the assault weapons ban is. It's a huge misnomer about what looks like a radical gun and what doesn't look like a gun. If you look at history, one step follows the next step. And places like Cuba and Iraq and Nazi Germany, we all know what happened there.
We are going to talk about gun control laws with our guest. Your thoughts welcomed on 4 lines, 202-585-3881 if you support Democrats. If you support President Bush, it's 202-585-3880, 202-585-3882 if you support others. International viewers, you can call in as well, 202-585-3883. Tell us about how you got your last name.
Well, my husband is Ted Nugent. He's not only a musician, but he's a strong advocate of the Second Amendment, and I think that's why I'm here. We've been married for 15 years, and I've understood what he's so passionate about, and it's the ability to be an American, the ability to stand up for what you believe in, to voice your opinion, and I think that's why I'm here. Ted has taught me that your voice can be heard. Every person has a voice, and if we don't agree with the laws that are being passed or about to be passed, we better do something about it because we are all responsible.
Our guest has also written a book, Married to a Rock Star, and inside the book, several photos with you and Ted, starting with this one. Tell me, how many weapons do you both own?
Oh gosh, I don't know if you're talking about knives or guns or bows and arrow.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you. Again, that's something that the anti-gunners want to latch onto. Is the kids at Columbine already broke 22 laws. With the 23 the 23rd law, would that have stopped them? If I own 4 guns or 5 guns, is there a difference? If I own 10 guns? My husband has been a gun owner for all of his life. He's 55 years old. He hasn't shot anybody. It's about responsible gun ownership.
Do you have the same views on gun control before you met your husband?
No. I had never been around guns or hunting or rock and roll, but I write all about that in my book. This was a huge wake-up call for me. I probably would have been on the fence about a lot of issues about hunting because I love animals. I adore animals. We have 3 dogs and a cat, and they just rule our house. So I probably could have been swayed into the non-hunting camp if I would have seen a picture of a raccoon with its foot in a trap. But Ted taught me, we live on a 1,000-acre ranch, and he taught me about what happens in wildlife, and that if we continue to build golf courses and buildings, we continue to push aside wildlife habitat, and we have to manage that. So our hunting lifestyle advocates an honest, responsible lifestyle. We live off the land, and it's healthy, and I've been a health and fitness buff for all of my life, so it really followed into play with what I strongly believed in, because venison is not fed up with chemicals and steroids.
We're joined by our guest husband, Ted Nugent, on the phone. Hello, Mr. Nugent.
Greetings, Pedro. Happy Mother's Day to you, and Shemaine, good morning. I love you.
Good
I'll
morning,
send my
honey.
regards to your mother. When you met your wife, what is it specifically that you taught her about the idea of gun ownership that helped her change her mind to her current position?
I think, first of all, that it's fun, that the marksmanship discipline is truly invigorating, it's challenging, it's a discipline that will find its way into all aspects of a quality of life, higher level of awareness. You find, I'm 55 and I write scary rock and roll songs and perform with intense energy, but the calming effect, just the opposite of what the media has said about gun ownership, it's the calming discipline of firearms and enjoyability that really, I think, got Shemaine's attraction. But once I really articulated the fact, the simple, inescapable fact, that if guns are minimized or, in many people's minds, outlawed, if they're banned, you are helpless. That's irresponsible. God gave us a precious gift of life. And I believe when you really think about it intellectually and spiritually, the gift of life is worth protecting. In fact, more than worth protecting, more than a right to protect, I believe we have a moral obligation to protect our lives. And John Kerry would not allow one American to carry a gun unless you're a cop or in the military. In fact, John Kerry and the anti-gunners, the Sarah Brays of the world, they don't trust a hero, a Marine, Army, soldier, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. They don't trust a man or woman coming back from the front lines of war to carry a gun in America. If you live in Massachusetts or Connecticut or Illinois, I find that absolutely offensive to me.
Mr. Nugent, I asked your wife about the assault weapons ban that's set to expire. Aren't the president, current, and Mr. Kerry on the same side of this issue?
I pray to God they're not. The assault weapons ban is a lie. Even those most adamantly in support of the so-called assault weapons ban, let's call it what it is. It was a gun ban. It didn't ban any assault anything. It banned squirrel rifles. It banned deer rifles. It banned competitive rifles. The gun ban is so dishonest, and those who support it are so ball and chain by a political correct feel-good imagery that it just even makes this old guitar player weep, because the very weapons that are banned by this dishonest law have put otherwise innocent citizens of America into jail. Even in New Jersey, cops have been arrested because they owned a Mini 14, which the governor of Florida at the time, Mr. Graham, said, well, the Mini 14 can't be banned with the assault weapons ban because it's just my little deer rifle, quote, unquote.
Mr. Nugent.
Meanwhile, they don't know the truth. Shemaine knows the truth, I know the truth, and now people watching C-SPAN might know the truth.
I'm going to have to let you go right there because we want the other people watching C-SPAN to call in. So thanks for joining us today.
Happy Mother's Day, y'all. See you, Shemaine.
The picture in the book shows you in a Tommy gun. I'm sure we're going to get callers saying, "And why in the world is it necessary to own this type of weaponry rather than?"
Do you want me to address that now?
Sure.
Okay. What kind of car do you have? Just out of curiosity.
Toyota.
Does it go over 70 miles an hour?
Yes, it does.
Okay, why?
'Cause I push
do
it
we,
that fast.
why do we need a car that goes over 70 miles an hour? You heard about the new trucks that have 500 horsepower? Why do we need that? We don't. But the last time I checked, this is the United States of America, and responsible citizens have the opportunity and have the freedom to choose, to make choices.
Let's get the callers in on it. Our first call, Los Angeles, California.
Yes, good morning, Charmaine. It's a pleasure to see you. When I dialed in, I didn't recognize you, but I have seen you before, and I think you and Ted do great work.
Thank you.
Know, one of the things that bothers me a lot is the way the media shapes perceptions. Like we will always hear the story of the person who accidentally gets killed by an irresponsible gun owner. But one story that really escaped the media. I was watching a documentary on A&E just about a couple of weeks ago, and it was about the two Dartmouth professors, the man and woman, married couple, Dartmouth professors, who were murdered by two teenagers. One of the parts of that story that is never, ever publicized is that those two boys cased another home first, that they were planning on going in and murdering the owner and robbing him of all of his possessions. But the reason, and they confessed to this, the reason that they decided not to go there is because they could see that the man was armed. He came to the door with a gun by his side in the middle of the night, and that was the sole reason why they did not stop and kill him.
Caller, thanks.
Well, I think it's incredible that in some states it's encouraged, and a lot of people have guns. In fact, in Texas, you're allowed to shoot trespassers. But if I'm here and somebody's stealing my car and then decides to come inside my home and do whatever, rape, murder, or assault me, I don't have the opportunity and the freedom to defend myself. And I think that's just irresponsible. I think it's un-American, it's unjust, and it's backwards, upside-down logic. Whereas this is the United States of America, but in some states, the laws are totally different. So I agree. I understand in Chicago, too, there was a gentleman who was defending himself. A man broke into his home, he shot him, and now the man is in jail, the homeowner is in jail. I just don't understand that. As a mother, it is my responsibility to protect myself so that I can get up the next day and make breakfast for my son and take him to school. And anyone who tries to get between me and my responsibilities as a mother is in for a rude awakening, because I, like many women of the NRA, many women of the Second Amendment sisters, and many moms, like a mother bear protecting their young, we are unstoppable.
Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of a weapon would you suggest taking to your son's soccer game?
Well,
what kind of stopping power do you need? Do you want a rifle, or do you want something you can fit in your pocket or your purse? There's so many fights that go on at these things anyway. Is that what you really want?
No, it's not what I really want, and I don't really want people to go out and drink and drive either. I think that there are a lot of people who are monsters out there, criminals out there, people who've had bad intentions. All that we are suggesting is for responsible gun owners to be able to protect themselves and law-abiding citizens to be able to have the freedom to make that choice. No, I don't want to see anybody start shooting each other, and especially at soccer games. And banning guns out of fear of drive-by shootings or recreating the Old West is like banning Krispy Kreme donuts because too many of us get fat. And you know, heart disease is the number one killer of women in the United States of America. So why don't we ban Krispy Kreme?
We had an emailer ask that your guest has made many assertions about John Kerry's positions on gun control. Can you please ask her to support those assertions? Isn't he a hunter himself?
Well, like I said, he says that he's a hunter, but he is aligning himself with radical anti-gunners, people who want to ban gun ranges and ban guns. So, as my husband said, it's all really a misnomer, and they're lies.
Princeton, New Jersey.
Yes, hello. I'd like to ask you about the Second Amendment, since you named your group after that. The Second Amendment has this pesky little clause about militias. Let's ignore that, and suppose the Second Amendment said that the right of the citizen to bear arms should not be abridged. Now, I want to know what you mean by arms. Do you include, let's include assault weapons, fully automatic weapons. Are they arms?
Again, we're talking about apples and oranges here. Arms are arms. If we want to choose to have a car that goes 150 miles an hour with 500 horsepower, that's our choice. You're not going to abuse that, I hope. You're not going to drink and drive, get in that car, and put other Americans at risk. If people choose to own so-called assault weapons, which they aren't, people choose to own them, and they're responsible gun owners. That's all I'm talking about. If people want to go to Krispy Kreme donuts, or let's just not narrow down Krispy Kreme, let's just talk about eating fat. This is killing Americans. If Americans want to save other Americans, if they want to save lives, fast food and eating fat foods kills more Americans than firearms do.
Aston, Pennsylvania.
Hi, this is Dino from Aston.
Hi, Dino.
And you brought up something that's very interesting about fat food killing people. I happen to be a diabetic. But my problem is this. With all that's going on in the world today, I'm a retired school teacher, and I'm seriously thinking of going out and buying more than one gun.
Good for you.
Because I live real close to a refinery, and with all that's going on with these terrorists, I often fear if they show up at the refinery, how do I defend myself?
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting, Dino and Pedro? It's interesting that the NRA has seen an increase in women's educational shooting programs to the tune of 1,008% in 2 years. So that's got to tell you something.
We talked a little bit about the Million Mom March. Part of it is to kick off a campaign to save the assault weapons ban. Just to let you know, C-SPAN does plan to cover it tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. And you can see it right here at C-SPAN starting at 11. You have a photo here of your custom Zebra 22, as it's called. Mm-hmm. What's special about this one?
Isn't that cute? Well, because it's zebra. I'd like to have a pink one, too.
What kind of animals do you and your husband hunt?
We live off the land, so we have a very unique lifestyle, and one that I think more and more Americans are going towards, are gearing towards now. We live off the land. We only eat what we harvest ourselves, so we know where the source of our food is. We know that it's not fed up with chemicals and steroids, and venison can actually lower your cholesterol. So I think we live a healthy lifestyle, but we're just being honest about what we do.
Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, I support carry because I want to be able to afford to have a gun. But I think the government ought to go against the criminals, not the guns.
Absolutely.
I mean, the gun, if you lay a gun down on the counter, it's innocent. It's what you do with the person who picks the gun up, whether it's an AK-47 or a little .22 pistol. It don't matter what size the gun is. It's what the government does to the criminals. They don't do nothing to people who kill babies. They smack them on the wrist and say, okay, we're going to take the gun away. They need to put responsibility where the responsibility lies in the people who do it.
Absolutely. Somebody has to pull that trigger. Somebody has to get in the car and drink and drive. Somebody has to smoke, and smoking kills more people than firearms do every year. So we have to start looking at the criminal justice system that continues to take 80% of the violent criminals who continually go out and commit the same crimes over and over and over. Something's got to be done to stop these monsters.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, I was wondering how she feels about the citizens of Iraq having their guns confiscated, by the United States, when they simply, seem to want to protect their homeland.
What is your name?
Mary.
Mary. To be honest, Mary, I'm not aware of that. My responsibility right now, it's kind of like I'm tunnel visioned. I want to know about what's going on in my neighborhood, my home, my country, and I think it's unfortunate. I don't know the circumstances as to why their guns are being taken away, and I think it needs to be looked into, but I understand that we need to trust our armed forces at this point in time, and for us to question the ability that how they protect us, they provide us with freedom. I'm not ready to answer that question, and I think I need more information.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah, excuse me. The reason I was calling in, it seems odd to me that in all this anti-gun rhetoric that we have running around, nobody seems to mention that Australia, who has recently banned guns, has had a 44% increase in armed robberies. Britain which has long been an anti-gun country, very, very, very high crime rate. If you defend yourself in Britain, you're going to serve life in jail, especially if you shoot somebody who just, did something to your family. When mentioning murder in America, we lump everything from self-defense, accidental shooting, hunting accidents, anything involving that weapon. When the total percentage rates come up, seems to me that the numbers mentioned even by the Democratic side come up to 11% total in America of total deaths committed by guns. Now, if this is the case, it seems to leave an awful lot more out there that is committed by other means. Blunt force trauma, hammers. These are mentioned by the Democratic side. I don't know if you all have talked about this or not already. I just thought it fairly interesting that nobody mentions what the already anti-gun, other countries who are anti-gun, how bad they've got it right now.
Shemaine Nugent.
Actually, the Centers for Disease Control have said that the top 10 list of killers in America are cancer, heart disease, deaths due to physical inactivity and poor diet, toxic agents, pneumonia and the flu. Deaths related to firearms is at the bottom of the list and has actually decreased from 2% to 1%. Those are the most recent statistics that I've gotten. And yeah, I agree with you. It's just amazing. I don't understand the logic when people look at places like Canada. And when they banned guns, there was a community in Canada that got together and said, we're so anti-gun, we're going to let everybody know about it. We're going to post it in our front yard that this is a gun-free home. Well, where do you think the criminals went to first?
The Chicago Tribune has a story saying that an estimated 11 to 17 million women in America own a handgun or some type of a gun.
A growing amount of women are becoming gun owners, and as I said, the NRA is seeing an increase in women's educational shooting programs. In the past couple of years, it's up 1,008%.
And you train women how to use guns?
We do, yes. I have a program, a nonprofit organization called Queen of the Forest, and we educate women and empower them with the ideas about spirituality of the great outdoors, basic handgun training, basic archery techniques, fitness and nutrition, because that's important to everyone, and self-defense and personal protection.
Cleveland, Ohio, you are next.
Yeah. I had a few points to make. Number one, I just wanted to say that I believe that some of the analogies that have been drawn here about apples and oranges has been a little outlandish. First off, choosing to eat Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever you decide to eat is a lifestyle choice. In Ohio, for example, we have had a concealed weapons carrying law just put in, and I cannot control the emotions of another individual walking from one public place to another. If that individual is armed, my life is at risk because they're allowed to be. Next off, on Senator Kerry's position, just because he's aligning himself with individuals that are, gun control advocates does not mean that he is against private ownership of guns. I think you've misrepresented that a little bit.
Well, why don't you hang on and we'll let our guests respond.
Well, let me discuss your first point about recreating the Old West and talk about drive-by shootings. I was recently at the NRA convention in Pittsburgh, and I couldn't believe how warm and welcoming the Pittsburgh community was to gun owners. We walked around with NRA badges because we were attending conventions and just didn't take the badges off. And everywhere I went outside of the convention center, people recognized me, thanked me for what I was doing. And I see, contrary to the caller's beliefs, I see a lot of support for gun ownership.
Caller, do you have a response?
Well, I can understand the fact that you came away from a convention that was probably, surrounded by a lot of people that align with your views as well. But to me, as an average citizen walking out on the street, I don't know what my neighbors, what anybody out there in the public domain has been taking. I don't know what kind of emotional state they're in. Why are we putting guns or weapons into the hands of people whom, you know, criminally, we don't know what their background is.
Okay, caller,
We don't
thanks.
know.
I will agree with the caller in that gun ownership is not for everyone. Convicted rapists and murderers need not apply. But those of us who are responsible gun owners, who have proven that we don't have a history of felonious assaults, I think it's not only our responsibility, but I think it's a commandment that we need to protect ourselves and our families.
Just failed to mention it, the Second Amendment Sisters do have a website. If you go to www.w2asisters.org, you'll find out more information about their organization as you look at that. Our last call from Huntsville, Alabama.
Yes, good morning. And all I can say is Ted Nugent is a very, very lucky man, just as I am a very, very lucky man to have a wife that puts up with me. Anyway, 2 points. The first one is the ACLU charter says they protect the Constitution of the United States. Now, my problem with that is that, yeah, okay, they're going to protect things like this, the children stuff, or the pornography, that kind of thing. But I've never heard them come back and protect the Second Amendment on guns. And the other thing, too, is here in Huntsville, actually, in Madison, we have a gentleman named Greg Hopkins, who is a prosecuting attorney for this state, that talks about the levels of use of force. And what he does is he teaches if a woman is in a conflict with a guy that's of a greater size, what is the levels of force that legally you can do, which is an excellent thing. Because, you know, everybody always talks about the extreme, that you're going to use this gun because you have it. No, I mean, you know, it is a last resort.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, and that's what we teach in our Queen of the Forest program. That's what the NRA teaches. Ideally, we are not in a confrontation. Ideally, the number one, if you ever take a gun course, a gun training course, they tell you to get out of the situation first. That, using a firearm in self-defense is the last resort. But if it means that I can get to my son's track meet, I'm going to do it, because ultimately we teach women that, you know, yes, men are much stronger than we are, and the firearm is an equalizer. Ultimately, we try to show how self-defense moves and basic personal protection moves can help women get out of situations. We have to stand up for what we believe in. We have to stand up for ourselves and our families, but a firearm is an equalizer.